In this, I'm going to explain I'm going to introduce the IBM Hyperledger. So basically, the Hyperledger is the project was initialized by the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation is the starting one who did this particular project first. That means from which many organizations have participated in the Hyperledger project. Basically, this Hyperledger project was started as an open source technology. So the Hyperledger was originally started by the Linux Foundation for creating the blockchain-based technologies. So it has invited many organizations to contribute, and it want to make it as an open source. So the main objective of this project is to initiate an open source and community-based blockchain development. Then later on, the individual organizations have withdrawn from the project and they started their own fabric, their own version of the Hyperledger. So as part of this, the Fabric is the blockchain framework as part of the Hyperledger main project. So the IBM is one which has done this particular Fabric version. So that is the reason we'll call it as the IBM Hyperledger Fabric. So basically, this is a permissioned blockchain, or we can say this is a permission-based enterprise blockchain. The reason we are calling it as permission-based means it is a private blockchain. You can create only the private blockchain with this Hyperledger Fabric. While coming to the Ethereum and other things like Bitcoin, these are the public networks. Okay, you can also create private network. Also, you can also create the public network. That means if you can use the public chain IDs, then you can access the public networks. You may also create your own private network and can use locally in case of Ethereum. But where in case of IBM Hyperledger Fabric is a completely permission based project or permission based blockchain. So the core features of the this Hyperledger Fabric is first one is the shared ledger. The ledger will be shared among all the participating nodes, and second one is by keeping the security things in mind, they have developed this. Anyhow, the securities like security features like integrity, confidentiality, hashing. These all things will come into the picture. Non-repudiation kind of thing, which is called signature. There is a digital signature. This kind of things is also coming into the picture. So confidentiality is one more feature that it has been looking after. Next one is introducing of the smart contract. So in Ethereum, we have seen the development of the smart contract using Solidity programming. Here also we can develop the smart contracts. In this Hyperledger version, or in the literature of the Hyperledger, we'll call the smart contract as the chain code. Okay, that means the code that is going to be executed on the blockchain, that is what we call chain code. So, and anyhow, since the single copy of the ledger will be shared among all the participants, so automatically trust will also develop. So that is the reason to give the introduction, to conclude this introduction. So Hyperledger was originally started by the Linux Foundation for creating the blockchain-based projects, and the main objective of the this project, that is Hyperledger Fabric project, is to initiate open source community-based blockchain development. And the Hyperledger Fabric is a permission-based enterprise blockchain, and it don't have the support of cryptocurrency. While coming to the Ethereum, we have the support of Ether, which is a cryptocurrency. While coming to the Hyperledger, it won't depend on, it won't have the support of the cryptocurrencies. So hence, it is independent of the currencies. That means you can develop the project for rupees, dollars, or maybe any other thing. So only thing is, whenever the payment has been made, the payment number will be there, or payment recognition number will be there. like receipt number kind of thing, that may be included in the smart contract and can be written onto the blockchain. So we have seen the features of Hyperledger. So Hyperledger is a the Linux Foundation's project. It is actually then it is actually started as an open source and community based development. Then the IBM has joined this, like this many other organizations have joined, and IBM has came up with the another open source version which is called Hyperledger Fabric. This Hyperledger Fabric is mainly focused on properties like shared ledger, confidentiality, smart contract. This is also called as chain code. And since a single copy of the shared ledger is available on all nodes, then thereby we can achieve the trust also. And one more thing is, it is a permission based blockchain and don't have the support to the cryptocurrencies. So this Hyperledger Fabric is a very flexible way of usage, because we can deploy this fabric or we can also set up this fabric on the local computer, or maybe on the network, or maybe on the cloud, or maybe in the Docker. So like that, there are several versions are available. So usually for example, if you look at on this slide, so making blockchain real for clients, in which we have several applications here, garages, etc., engagements. These are the various interactions with the blockchain, and this has to be communicated, or this has to be linked with the technology that is called here Hyperledger Fabric technology. So in this Hyperledger, we have two versions, two components here: Hyperledger Fabric and the Composer. See, this Fabric is the main technology, whereas Composer is the one which is used for developing your projects. Basically, this Composer now is not in the development phase. It has been stopped in 2019. So hence, don't use this Composer, don't try to install the Composer. The reason is this Composer development has been stopped. So basically this Composer version has been developed for Hyperledger Fabric 1.1 version. Currently, the 2.4 version or 2.5.2 is going on. So hence, the features that are required for the enterprise development, which are not available, all the features are not available. So as the requirements are evolving, those requirements have been incorporated in the latest versions. So at the early versions, to have the understanding of how the Hyperledger works, this Hyperledger Composer has been introduced. At the time, the team has been developing the components is going for the development phase very actively, but thereafterwards it was stopped because there is no active development of the Composer. Actually, this Composer is just like a integrated development environment where you can directly create the chain code, you can directly create the peer nodes. So like that, you can do many things in that. And to have an understanding of how the Composer works, at the time, that is during the Fabric version 1.1, IBM also have developed a demonstration kind of thing, like a Hyperledger Composer Playground. So that playground is one where you can have the taste of how to develop the applications in the Hyperledger. So, but these features are nowadays not there, and in the Bodhi Linux version that I have provided you, in that we have only the this latest version, which is called Hyperledger Fabric 2.4 version, have been installed. Now, this Hyperledger Fabric 2.4 has been installed in the Bodhi Linux in the Docker. So Docker is the container actually, which is useful for to have the softwares in a consistent manner. Okay, so that is the reason we used to install Docker, and we used to install the components. And here IBM Bluemix is a one service, and other cloud services supported by IBM. So usually setting up the things in Docker and local network will take some time, but if you want to set up the Fabric on the cloud, Google IBM cloud, then it is of just a few clicks. Okay, within 3-4 minutes you can set up your network. However, IBM is providing you the 3 months of trial version for accessing the cloud, but after 3 months you are supposed to purchase it. So for practicing purpose and all, you can go through the IBM website for the cloud and interaction of the Hyperledger Fabric, and you can go through the documentations. Anyhow, I will provide you the links where you can have that particular thing. But if you want to install locally, then you may install it on the Docker container. Usually Docker is what? What is this Docker is? For example, you may be seeing that one developer may use a particular version of a programming language or an SDK, that is software development kit, and he may develop the application. Now, if this application has sent for the testing purpose, the tester should also use the same version of the SDK for testing the application. It means if the tester might have run that application on the either in the higher version or in the lower version, the application may not work properly, or the application may require some specialized SDKs for the support to run the application. So that is the reason the tester should also supposed to install what are the dependent SDKs. Then only the tester can also perform the testing of the application properly. This is quite common that you may write your program on your computer, but if you develop your project on your own computer at your home, and if you carry that project to the university system or college system somewhere, sometimes that application may not work properly. The reason is you may see that sir, it is working in my computer, but it is not working in the college system. So please give us some time so that we can set up this one and all. So this kind of permissions will be asked by the students. The reason is the university systems may not be with the updated SDKs or updated version of the software, but your computer may be, because this is your computer, your own laptop, you may be going for continuous updations and periodic maintenance. So hence obviously the latest versions may be available, and since you are working on the latest computer, obviously that compatibility may not be there with the college systems. So this is the main problem with the what you call the compatibility issue. So Docker is the one which where you will write, or this is a kind of container where whenever you mention in the script of the Docker that this application, in order to run this application, these are the specific versions of the products, this is the specific version of the SDKs or the components required, and if that particular script has been sent to the tester, then the tester will be having the Docker engine in Docker container at their computer, and by running that script, automatically all the supporting SDKs will be installed, and your application may be tested on that set of SDKs, so that the tester can give you what is the exact problem in the development of the application. So, or the tester may also successfully run the application and can see the things. So this is the way Docker will reduce the conflict of SDKs. Thereby, you run your application either on the current computer or any other computer where Docker is installed. Just by running the script of the Docker, automatically the Docker is providing you. The Docker is a company, that particular organization is providing you many packages like that. Automatically the related SDKs and the corresponding versions will be fetched and will be installed in the Docker, and your application can be run happily. So this is the advantage of the Docker, where the conflicting of the applications can be resolved. So that is reason the Hyperledger Fabric is also has provided a script. Actually, you can download the script and can run in the Docker. So automatically the supporting packages, components, and other requirements for the Fabric will be automatically fetched and will be installed on your computer. So if you want to install everything from scratch, the version compatibility and many things will be available. Many things may be a problem. That is the reason you go for directly downloading the script and setting up the basic environment for installing the packages such as npm and other Golang package. Okay, these kind of things is the basic requirements. First of all, the necessary prerequisites need to be installed. Then you install the Docker engine and Docker Composer and Docker CLI command line. Then you go for installing this Hyperledger Fabric script. So if you run the script, automatically the related components will be installed under the Docker. And one more thing is, whenever you install the Docker, so it is always recommended to create a separate user so that the Docker Composer, the Docker container will be operated from that user in a successful way. So if you try to install in the regular mode, then automatically sometimes it may disturb the regular activities. So that is the reason it is always better to create a separate user for this. Or if you are working under the root user, then you give the direct permission to the root user to access the Docker container, or you may create a new user and you give the new users as a full permissions to access the Docker container. So this is the way you can avoid the errors in using the Docker. This is the Hyperledger Fabric documentation, which is a very beautiful documentation in which you can go through about the Hyperledger Fabric and its components and all. So we'll observe the main components of the Hyperledger. Remember, the Hyperledger Fabric is a completely modular in nature. So we all know that in software engineering, always our applications must be developed with the loose coupling and high cohesion. This is what is called modularity principle. Loose coupling means one component is independent of other component, but high cohesion means there should be some plugins to connect with these two components. This is what is called high cohesion. So whenever we maintain this principle, then we can achieve the reusability of the software. And at the same time, the modular nature will give us the advantage of identifying the problem, where exactly the problem is available. So that is the reason the Hyperledger Fabric has been developed in a completely modular fashion. The best example is, assume that if you have an electrical box with full of wires in that, okay, clumsy circuits are there. Now, if all of a sudden, if the box stops functioning, then where is the problem? Where you can find where is the problem? So it is very difficult for you to identify exactly where is the problem. So for that, the best thing is you can divide, okay, this circuit belongs to this wing and this circuit belongs to this wing. Like that we can divide so that and we can also place an LED at every division. If there is no problem in the division, then the LED will glow, and if there is a problem, then LED will not glow. So thereby what will happen, we can identify in which section we have the problem. So this is what is called modularity in nature. That means we are going to divide the responsibilities to different sections of the electrical box, so that by looking at the glowing of the LED itself, we can come to know where exactly the problem is. like that. If you look at if all the communication patterns like the data, what you call the packets, okay, bits, strings, all these are combined, then it is very difficult for you to identify where exactly the problem is. That is the reason the ISO OSI model, if you look at in computer networks, the ISO OSI model consisting of 7 layers: AP, ST, NDP, application layer, presentation layer, transport layer, session layer, network layer, data link layer, and physical layer. Data link layer and physical layer. So these are the various layers you will find. So these layers will be having its own responsibilities. They are having their own responsibilities and functionalities. We allot the protocols in that. So like that, so many things we'll do in that. So where if any problem occurs, for example, if there is a problem occurred in the identifying of the port, so automatically we'll go to the transport layer and we'll try to rectify the problem. That is, I will observe that this is not the problem with the physical layer like wire and etc. It is not the problem with the physical address like MAC etc. And it is not the problem with the IP address. And this is the problem with the network protocol. Like that, we can identify that. So this modularity will help us in identifying the problem. Where exactly? At the same time, because of the modularity, one can also develop their own model, our own protocol, and can also incorporate in the network or in the system. So this is what the flexibility. So the same kind of flexibility is also achieved in the fabric. That is, we have several components in the fabric. So one thing is at the elementary stages, we usually feel that okay, these are the various components that need to be remembered thoroughly. So unless until you won't remember it thoroughly, you cannot go for developing of the network. For example, so here are the key concepts. The fabric model, this is the documentation of the Hyperledger fabric. The same link has been placed in the Google Classroom also. So here, membership service provider, policies, peers, ledger, the ordering service, smart contracts and chain code, fabric chain code lifecycle. These are the various components available in the fabric. This section outlines the key design features into Hyperledger fabric that fulfill its promise of comprehensive and customizable enterprise blockchain solution. So here, these are the various things which need to be understood thoroughly. The first one is assets. Assets means it defines the asset, and definition enables the exchange of almost anything with monetary value over the network. Asset is one which is having some monetary value. From Whole Foods to the antique cars, to currency features, or to any other thing. Here, for example, in case of the supply chain management, like grain market and etc., here the asset is grains. Okay, and in case of apparel industry, this kind of things, the assets are apparels like diamonds, gold, and other things, and other what you call ornaments. So you may label this is the ornament number and this is the thing, features, etc. So like that, we have several assets. That means usually the business will happen by exchanging the assets. So one may exchange the asset like gold, etc. Another person may provide the money for that. So this is what they called exchange, which are called as assets here. And these assets may be tangible assets or may be intangible assets. Tangible assets means the physical thing that we can see and we can realize this is the asset. And intangible assets are like the insurance or maybe like the mortgages. So these are all the intangible things. So that is the reason what type of asset you are going to define, and what are the properties and features, everything can be written in a configuration script called assets. And remember, for the Ethereum blockchain developers and DApp developers, Fabric will look like it is a completely, since it is a completely modular in nature, many things one must remember. But in case of Ethereum, it is a one go kind of application development. So that is the reason to understand Fabric, it will take a little bit time. Anyhow, by the end of this lecture, you will come to know what is Fabric and what is this architecture and all. Next one is chain code. So chain code is the smart contract, as I told just now. The chain code execution is partitioned from the transaction ordering, limiting the required levels of trust and verification across node types, and optimizing the network scalability and performance. Here, asset is the one which is used for exchanging the, or which is used for the what you call exchanging of for performing the transactions. While coming to the chain code is, anyhow, the transactions will happen based upon some contract. So the contract is nothing but you deliver this many number of goods and we will give you this much money. This is the general contract. So or you are supposed to provide the goods by the end of 15th of every month. This is kind of contract. So this contract will be involved with some logic here. The full amount will be paid only if the goods have been provided by 15th of every month. So this is what the condition here. If this kind of business logic exists, obviously this has to be executed with the help of some contract. In Ethereum, we have seen it as a smart contract. In Hyperledger Fabric, we will call it as the chain code. Next one is ledger features. So ledger means here, which is a distributed ledger that will be shared among all the peers. So this ledger feature is like an immutable shared ledger, encodes the entire transaction history for each channel, and also includes the SQL-like query capability for efficient auditing and dispute resolution. So you look at in Ethereum, if you want to fetch any transaction from the blockchain network or for anything that is related to the contract want to place onto the chain, we use a function type called event. So whenever the event has been raised, we use emit. Okay, this kind of keywords we use there, and whatever is the transaction emitted or is recorded on the chain can be fetched and shown onto the DApp. But here a beautiful feature has been added called SQL-like query capability. So select star from so and so where the account number is so and so, like that. So thereby it will fetch automatically what are the list of transactions conducted by so and so address, like that. So the SQL-like query capability for efficient auditing and dispute resolution. Next one is privacy. So this privacy will be achieved with the help of the channel. So here channel is a medium to which various peers are connected. Peer is nothing but the one who are involved in the network. For example, in a apparel industry, various peers may be involved. Peers may be the customer, maybe other subordinate industries like diamond shaping industry or diamond polishing industry, or maybe any other sister industries where this entire apparel business will run. So this kind of things will become the peers. So if the peers want to communicate, the peers has to communicate over the channel. It is just like I am going to talk with you in a private way, for example. So what I will do is I will create a channel, private channel on which only we two can communicate. So this is the way the channel will be used. Usually the channel will be used for the private communication. Anyhow, the IBM Hyperledger is the permission-based ledger, permission-based blockchain. So that means it's a private blockchain. Automatically, the communication happens over the between the peers is also private in nature. That is the reason if any peer of a network want to communicate, they have to communicate over the separate channel. So that is the reason the channel has been introduced here. For example, if a peer 1, there exists peer 1 and peer 2, they have attached to a channel 1, so they can securely perform the communication or conduct the communication over the channel 1. And whenever they have, for example, there is another peer called P3, which is not linked to this channel 1. So that means the P3 cannot communicate with the P1 or P2. So to have communication, they must have a channel between that. Within that channel only they can communicate. So that is thereby what will happen? Privacy can be achieved. Channels and private data collection enable private and confidential multilateral transactions that are usually required by competing business and regulated industries that exchange assets on common network. So channel is a medium to which various peers are connected. Any valid transaction generated at channel usually will be sent securely to all peers in the network. In other words, we can say the channel can be considered as private way of communication between the peers. The ongoing communication in a channel can only be captured by peers subscribed to the channel. As just now I told you in the example, P3 is not linked to the channel, so that is the reason P3 is not subscribed to the channel, so that is the reason P3 cannot communicate with P1 and P2. A peer can also endorse and validate transactions on the that are generated by the client applications. Client applications is what the decentralized applications that are developed. So for the that is what is the client application. And remember, the fabric design, the fabric architecture or design was actually is designed in such a way that to achieve the horizontal scaling. Horizontal scaling means you can add any number of peers to a channel. So that is what is called horizontal scaling. Once you have created a channel, you can have multiple participating peers to the channel. You can also add it. So it is not that much scalable as like the Bitcoin or any other public blockchains. We can say the restriction of the number of peers maybe up to 100 or 120 like that. You cannot expect like thousands of peers can be added to a channel. So that is the reason one thing we can say that here since it is a private blockchain and the scalability is there in the horizontal direction, but there is a limit for that also. So I hope by this time you come to know the channel and all. Next we'll see the security and membership services. So security and membership services, how can we say that a particular peer is secure? Or how can you say that a particular organization is secure? So this is what called security and membership service. And which member, for example, which member has to do which kind of operation? And what is the permission given to so and so peer? So this kind of access control mechanism and security, other security and membership mechanisms want to manage. So for that we can manage using the security and membership service, which is called MSP. So this membership service will give us the facility for implementing the security operations, so which is called MSP, membership service provider. This component actually consists of the abstract component for the cryptography and identity management, such as key management, digital certificates, and many other security related things. This is considered as the backbone of the trust in the blockchain. especially Hyperledger Fabric blockchain. And so that means unless until there is no identity management, there is no key management, you cannot achieve this trust in the blockchain. So that is the reason we can consider it as a backbone. This MSP is the backbone for that. So the special feature of the MSP is that it can define custom rules. That means we can also define our own rules. Okay, for cryptographic credentials, digital signature signing and verification, and many other things. So a business organization or entity can be considered as one MSP. So for example, in an apparel industry, the mining industry may be joined in the network, or maybe the polishing industry may be joined. Like that, multiple organizations may join in the network. So these organizations will be considered, each and every organization will be considered as one MSP. So because the security rules for one industry will be different from other industry. So this is what they called security rules. Usually X.509. Okay, please make a note of this. X.509 certification will be used by the MSPs. So what is this X.509? X.509 is a digital certificate. In case of Bitcoin, we have seen elliptic curve digital signature algorithm. In the case of Ethereum also, we have seen the digital signature kind of concepts using the elliptic curve. So specification 256, this kind of things we have seen. In case of the IBM Hyperledger Fabric, it uses the X.509 certificate, which is a digital certificate based on the widely accepted International Telecommunication Union ITU X.509 standard, which defines the format of public key infrastructure certificates. They are used to manage identity and security in internet communication and computer networking. So the standard X.509 certificates that in general will be used for computer communication over the internet, the standard certificates will be used by the MSP. Clear? I think by this time you can come to know how the security and membership services will be maintained. So the membership services will be provided by the MSP. And one more component here is the feature, we can say, is the consensus. So here a unique consensus approach will be used in the IBM Hyperledger, which is called practical Byzantine fault tolerance, PBFT. Okay. So a unique approach to consensus enables the flexibility and scalability needed for enterprise. So it majorly uses the PBFT consensus that already we have seen during the consensus protocols. So finally, I can say the components are the components of the Hyperledger are the peers. Peers is nothing but a node that will be adding into the network. So this peers will usually update the blockchain data, that is by interacting with the client application. So a network can have any number of peers that also we have discussed. So each peer will maintain a copy of the shared ledger. So it is just like how a node will maintain the shared ledger. In the same way, each peer will maintain its own copy of the shared ledger. And next one is very, very, very important component is ordering service. So this ordering service, you can make note of this ordering service. So the ordering service is the main thing, especially for defining the rules of the blockchain. So unless until there is no ordering service, there is no blockchain in the IBM Hyperledger Fabric. So ordering service, it is the first one to create before the blockchain is going to be launched. So we can call it as the initiator, or we can call it as the main component for creating the Genesis block. So what is the Genesis block? We all know that it is the starting block in the blockchain. So in order to create this Genesis block, so we can say that this ordering service is the one which is a very, very important one, where we will write the configuration script, how the blockchain will be, and what are the special mechanisms or mechanisms to be implemented in this ordering service. So the ordering service packages the transactions into blocks to be delivered to peers. So communication with the service is via channels. And one more thing is, in this ordering service, there are two categories. Okay, first one is solo, SOLO. That means this ordering service will be operated only on the single node for development. While coming to the second category is KAFKA, which is called as crash fault tolerant communication consensus. So in this KAFKA, minimum 3 nodes are required for achieving the consensus, and any number of odd number of nodes can be added in that. So this is what thing called ordering service. This is one more component. And we have seen the peers. We have seen the second component as the ordering service. Next one is, we have seen the channel. Channel is especially used for the private communication between the peers. And we have seen the chain code. Chain code is a kind of smart contract, and where we implement it. In order to write the chain code, we may use the Go language or Java language. Okay, so we may use either Go or Java language for writing the chain code. And there are some other mechanisms where we can write the code in the Solidity and can convert it into the Java language kind of thing. Some mechanisms are also provided over the internet, but I'm not sure that how far it is successful. Next, after that, we have seen the MSP. MSP means membership service provider. So this membership service provider is one where it will provide the cryptographic primitives, identities, etc. And business rules, or we can say membership rules. And finally, one more component is available called Fabric Certificate Authority. So this component is responsible for managing the network identities for user in the network. Okay, so it will be used for various operations such as issuing certificates, creating users, registering users. So it can also integrate with existing directory structures like LDAP if already users have been created. So like that, we can have many features in this particular Fabric Certificate Authority. So these are the components available in this. Now, by understanding this,